So by the end of this series on addiction, I hope you'll be able to use mindfulness and a few other behavioral techniques to notice cravings and negative thought patterns and different addictive behaviors and let them be just cravings and find equanimity as a result of the tools I'm about to share. So addiction. This is a problem I've been familiar with over the last decade and something I'm very passionate about making videos about and helping you improve the need and use of things, whether that's smoking, food, technology, negative thinking, that are either external or internal things that seem to make us feel better, but it's very dangerous to rely on external things or substances to increase our well-being and have some form of stability with our mental health. So when it comes to addiction, there's a whole different process that I believe is linked quite closely to habits, negative habits and positive habits. You've got your cue, your craving, your response or your action, and your reward system. So these four things are spoken about a lot in Atomic Habits and many other books about habit change. And where I'd like to go with this is talk primarily about craving and our initial thoughts that lead to our actions and our responses and our internal or external rewards. And what I really want to embed into here is that mindfulness can be very helpful, but in the subsequent videos I'll be making in this series, I'll be touching on behavioral, habit-based issues and some psychological tools as well. And it must be said initially that addiction is very comprehensive, often clinical, and I'm not a clinician in any way, shape or form, and I would recommend, if you're having serious issues, that you seek professional help. There's many forms of resources out there and help available, and some really great work I would recommend is Hungry Ghosts by Gabor Mate, Chasing the Scream by Johan Hari, or some form of actual in-person support that could help you. So with that said, I would like to go into discussing how thoughts are often linked to the cues and the cravings that actually lead to addictive behaviors, and that often these cues and cravings, especially the cravings, the thought process, is what initiates the negative behavior or the reliant behavior. And if we can notice that as a thought, let it arise and pass away or be with it, then we can really start to make some dents into addictive behavior and the impact it has over our lives and our general well-being. So let's look at a method I use using mindfulness and explore this topic a little bit more. So smoking, overeating or eating bad quality food, and either negative thinking, promiscuous thinking, or some form of addiction to social media or intaking too much content that isn't of any quality or substance for your life are sort of three issues that we'll be looking at throughout this series as examples of how to tackle addiction. Obviously there's many other things, but we'll just go into these. So mindfulness can really help you in the way that if you can use mindfulness correctly to notice your initial thoughts, your wants or your supposed needs for these things as just thoughts. And thoughts, as Sam Harris and Judson Brewer will say, are just pieces of language or images in the mind, auditory or imagistic, and they'll appear, then it will mix with some form of dopamine and it will push us towards acting on that initial thought. So what dopamine will do in the habit loop is it will give you an initial amount of dopamine, a little reward before you actually get the thing you're craving, and it will push you towards it. And the beauty of this is it can also work in a positive way. If you begin to exercise and you reward yourself, you can begin to spike your dopamine levels before you exercise. Or if you start wiring positive thinking, you can get a little reward before you start doing these things. So the way I would use mindfulness for this is to notice non-judgmentally, in a compassionate but curious way, your cravings or your thought patterns arising, and then try, if you can, by doing less, not more. You're not really pushing this, you're just noticing that thought arise, you're being with it. Note it if you want, just thought or desire for food, or desire to send a message you shouldn't send, or watch a piece of content you shouldn't watch, or craving, you could say, for smoking, or sensation for irritability, which would then cause the craving for something like a cigarette or some junk food. And try and be with that to the best of your ability. Notice it, and try and notice the half-life of that initial thought. We're not going into the actual response or the reward, just focusing on the craving arising, letting it be there, and letting it pass away by itself, by not attaching any feelings or additional thoughts onto the initial thoughts that have arisen. And if you need to, give yourself rewards for not following these thoughts. So after you've noticed the craving and it's passed away by itself, reward yourself in another way. Try and increase the support for yourself acting in a positive way when you're combating addictive thoughts, which would lead to addictive behaviors. So in a meditative practice, I would sit, I'd focus on my breath, and I would wait for a craving or a thought to arise, and I would try and feel it and be with that thought in all its different aspects in a curious way, and just notice it, allow it to arise and pass away. You could do this over and over again, perhaps when you're wanting a cigarette or wanting a drink of alcohol or wanting some food, and put yourself in a position where you know these thoughts are going to arise. Maybe you're on a break from work and you want to check your phone, just sit there and notice it come and pass away. And I really feel that this will help you start to engage and break down what a craving is, what an initial thought is, and how it cascades and leads to really negative and detrimental behaviors. So I'm going to keep this short for today. I really appreciate you watching this video. If you'd like to comment and subscribe, it would mean a huge deal to me. And in the next video, we'll be going into a tactic from Justin Brewer, who wrote The Craving Mind, and we'll be going a bit more into how we can use mindfulness to help addictive behaviors and bad habits. And until next time, take care, my friend.